What's up, guys? Phil here, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. In this episode, I sit down with the NRL Hunter UK team, and this conversation went exactly where I thought it would go, into the real work of building something that is bigger than ourselves. These guys are establishing a competitive shooting infrastructure in the UK, and I feel like they're doing it the right way, similar to how Andy, James, and Trez from the PRS UK team built theirs. Community first, fundamentally focused, and best of all, no bullshit. What really stood out to me is their commitment to an actual training structure. They're not just looking to run matches and hoping people get better. They're building a system, looking for qualified instructors to teach their community, comprehensive courses, and the whole 9 yards. In my opinion, that's how you develop shooters properly. Like they say, rising tides raises all boats. We covered their journey from precision rifle to NRL Hunter, the challenges of establishing standards in a growing sport, and pretty much what we're bringing to the UK shooters in 2026. This is about creating something sustainable that actually serves the shooting community. All that being said, me and my business partner, John Bumpus, will head over to the UK in September this year to run training. We'll teach our Intro to NRL Hunter course, Advanced Precision, and our performance competition courses. More details inside the show. Let's get into it. And it looks like we're live. Cool.
Excellent.
Well, good evening, I guess, gents, on your time, on your side of the world.
Yeah, it's nighttime for us now.
Did you guys pretty much wrapping up your weekend then?
Yeah, unfortunately, 8 o'clock, just after 8 o'clock here in the UK, so it's back to work Monday morning.
What does a typical weekend look like for the would it be the president and vice president? How would you guys?
He gets to be the president. I get to be the vice.
The president and vice president and honor. When you guys are in season,
it's always season for us. We've always got something going on, whether it's at the range or a competition or hunting. There's always something for us to be doing.
We run a couple of clubs which keep us busy, so we're always shooting somewhere. We're running training and various bits and bobs. So a weekend should be time off, but typically that's when we disappear off the range and we get in trouble with our other halves.
Yeah.
For another weekend away, another weekend away. But fortunately, they're quite forgiving and they know we love what we're doing. So
yeah, that's interesting. You know, I think for people that want to get into the shooting sports, and again, as it grows, you always see the grumblings of other unhappy individuals, right? Of just like if I were running this organization, this is how I'd run it, but then not giving any kind of grace to the people that are actually running it, right? And like the realities of the sacrifices that you guys have to make to keep something like that for other people to have fun, and that's one of the things that my hat is off to all the organization, all the leadership that run all the, shooting sports, more particular out there before the NRL Hunter UK was obviously the PRS with Andy Simpson, who I became good friends with. And, he had I told him kind of like a thankless job in the sense that his ambitions to grow the sport, but also be a top level competitor at the same time is very hard to balance, just because it's like, you can only apply your 100% effort in one specific area, and so I think he did step down from the PRS director for UK, I believe.
This year, they had their last final match of the season back in October, and I think that was Andy's last match as one of the guys in charge here in the UK.
Yeah. So, good luck to Andy and his future endeavors as a competitive shooter. But yeah, I know whatever he's going to do, he's going to be great. But
part of what he's doing is coming and shooting our NRL Hunter matches now. So him and James have shot as a team.
Oh, have they really?
Match. Yeah, already. And I think we'll see Trez coming along at some point as well. So it's great to have them.
I would love to be a fly on the wall for them to be a team, watching them as a team dynamic. I almost might RO a stage just to see those two as a team.
There is a stage that I RO'd for the two of them up in Gardner's at Estelmuir, and Andy put his GoPro out because he does that, so he wanted to catch everything, and he forgot to pick his GoPro up before he left, so I had it for a few minutes to entertain myself, put some extra material on there for him, and he eventually realised and came back with, yeah, good guys. Just what you were saying before, Philip, I think what makes this easier and the weekends away and the missing family things easier is you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
I think if you're passionate about something and you're with someone that wants you to be happy and passionate about things, it's a much easier transition. You know, when this becomes a day job and becomes monotonous, that's when I think it becomes difficult. But we're fortunate. We've always been involved in passion pieces. We continue to pick up more passion pieces and it gets deeper and deeper. So I think that's the key. When you stop being passionate about something, that's when it becomes difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a couple steps back. I know we kind of just jumped into it, but NRL Hunter UK, essentially leadership I've got Simon and Christian, and we're here to talk about NRL Hunter, your guys' kind of rise and outlook on the shooting sport out there, and kind of how did you guys, I guess, how long have you guys known each other, and then like what was the idea of like you guys like, hey, let's do this, for our shooting community out here?
So we met on
Tinder. I'm only joking. We found ourselves thrust into common ground with the formation of the Great Britain Precision Rifle Association. So precision rifle was picking up in this country in a big way, and the IPRF needed a national body to run it. Christian and I had never met before. We both had our own lives and what have you, and we found ourselves having a lot of common ground from a very early stage. And since then, we seem to have had the same thoughts on the same things ever since, and it's taken us in a number of interesting directions.
Yeah, back in the early days, what was that, 2021 that we were putting the GBPRA together?
Yeah,
2022. Yeah. So we had our first season where here in the UK there was no PRS UK. There was a few different locations where you could shoot precision rifle. We formed the executive committee of the GBPRA along with a few others, and we ran in that first season 6 qualification matches for the first ever IPRF World Championships over in France. Put that Great Britain and Northern Ireland team together that went over there and did very well. I mean, the Americans gave us a bit of a spanking, but we, it was a really great introduction to competitive international precision rifle, and like I say, myself and Simon were proud and really enjoyed being a part of that, even though we weren't shooting.
You guys. So in around 2021, 2002, had you guys already been, I guess, precision rifle shooters or long range shooters at that point?
I was quite fortunate to be involved in precision rifle in the UK before it was precision rifle. We didn't have, I remember it coming over from the States. I remember watching from distance and seeing it come off from the States. And I was fortunate to be involved in the early stages down at a place called Roundhouse in Bodmin, where TIFF used to run the Precision Rifle League, which was a predecessor of PRS, I suppose. I was fortunate back then. I was sponsoring it, as well as going down there and shooting, because it was a great venue. I'd caught the bug for long-range shooting a long time before that, but I found the dynamic nature of it really interesting. And then as a business, I sponsored it as well. And for a number of reasons, things changed, politics, what have you, and the PRS came along. Again, not that I've got form for it, but I sponsored that in the early days as well. So I was quite fortunate that dynamic shooting from the UK, I've been sort of there or thereabouts since it first started, it's given me a good insight into how things have evolved over the years, to be honest, because everything evolves. It's the nature of anything.
And at the time, I was just relatively new to shooting. I started off just coming up to 10 years now, when I first picked up a rifle, and it was just a 2-2 going out hunting rabbits. And it was actually through watching YouTube videos about precision rifle that I was like, oh, that looks good. I'd like to give that a go. So I turned up at one of those first Precision Rifle League matches in Wales. That was my first taste of the sport. And then only a few months later, that call went out for people to come and help out on that first executive committee for the Great Britain Precision Rifle Association. I just chucked my hat in the ring and said, "Yeah, come on then, let's give it a go and see what we can do."
We had an interesting few years, that's for certain.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's an interesting one because I've got a sort of background in organising things, and I think how something is organised massively affects how it works and its dynamic. And the amount of conversations we've had over the years about how involved your elite level shooters or competitors are in any organisation, and there's pros and cons for it. So it's quite interesting. Certainly for me, I mean, Christian was competing, but I wasn't competing, and I found that detachment really, really helpful to be able to make those decisions that other people didn't want to make because they were very focused on benefiting the individual elite level shooters. Whereas sometimes I had to be a bit more pragmatic and say that's not transparent, that's not going to work. So we had a really, really interesting few years, learned an awful lot, and ultimately from running international level events in precision rifle, it naturally sparked an interest in NRL Hunter, which Christian and I, we've become close friends over the years, and we've watched with interest for a number of years what's been going on in the States, and partly longing to be involved, but we've had nothing like that up until now. Nothing at all.
Yeah, that's it's interesting, just to see as you talk about, everything grows, right? And the evolution of shooting sports, right? And for it to had start off as, let's say the PRS, right, style of shooting, in the practical sense, right? In 2015, when I first started getting into this, it was still kind of, leadership of the PRS was still a lot of like military leadership organizations, and a lot of events were kind of based around the tacticalness of being a precision shooter, a sniper, as you may, and obviously it's evolved into this game of shooting very, very small targets from different props. But you've always had this hunting element, right? Even before precision rifle shooting, that I think we all know that the hunting community is absolutely ginormous, right? I mean, everyone hunts, everyone travels internationally and across the world to hunt. And for you guys to say, okay, hey, let's bring this, organization, this style of shooting to the UK, because I mean, you guys hunt year round out there, right? For us, at least for me, my hunting season kind of ends December, here at the end of December. But as we were talking, Christian, you've got certain windows, and pretty much it seems like you guys are able to hunt year round. And even when I was talking, to James and Andy, when I was out there, when we were just talking shop, like, those guys got into precision shooting because they were hunters, and COVID, the lockdown, kind of brought them together with a community. And I think that's what the coolest part about this sport is that community aspect that you're able to find, of having those like-minded individuals of, okay, hey, not only am I going to have fun over the weekend of shooting, but now I'm able to kind of learn and grow with other people and pick their brain about, okay, hey, what gear are you using? Or, or even hunting, right? Like more recently as I've been, getting into the hunting here in the US, I've been able to lean on a lot of the community that I've met on the hunting industry of, picking their brain on best tactics for finding bears or finding elk and stuff like that. So I think collectively, it's just good for the industry as a whole that you guys are bringing the NRL Hunter to UK. And how long has it been now that you guys have officially?
1 year. Just 1 year. It's been quite interesting. It's been up the past week or two. that I've been getting alerts on my phone saying, your WhatsApp group, your Facebook group is 1 year old today, and it's quite fascinating to think that it was September 2024 last year when we were having a conversation by chance with a range operator, Mark Gardner, up near Carlisle in Scotland, and he was talking about, wouldn't it be great if we had some sort of precision rifle competition that was based around hunting? Would you want to be involved if I did something at my range? And me and Simon just sort of like looked at each other and we were like, if we're going to do this, Mark, it's going to be NRL Hunter, and it needs to be all around the UK. It can't just be one range. Yeah. And that was it. Like that just opened up the idea.
We were running a stand. We didn't see this coming. Sorry, I think there's a tiny bit of lag, but we didn't see it coming at all. We were running a stand at show. We were selling things and what have you, and we were so focused on what we were doing. And all of a sudden, this conversation just took over the day. It was like it came from nowhere. It was dead casual, thrown away. Why don't we do this? And the two of us just became very, very much fixated on it. Then I couldn't even tell you what happened for the remainder of the day at the show. It completely came. We'd talked about Hunter before, but we'd never made anything more than just passing comment on it. So it was a chance conversation. Had that conversation not been had, who knows? Who knows where we'd be now?
And Simon had stepped down from the Great Britain Precision Rifle Association the year before. I stepped down not long after him as well, but I was still the media officer for the IPRF at the time that I went to shoot for Great Britain in Colorado. I was there in the factory team in Colorado, and when I got back from Colorado, I was like, right, I think I'm done now with the IPRF. I've had my turn. Time for somebody else to give it a go. And I feel like I want to do something more now. I want to do something different. I feel like I've had a good run of precision rifle. I've obviously hit a high with the Great Britain team. I was thinking I'm ready to do something different. So when the idea, why don't we do NRL Hunter, came along, I was like, in with both feet. Let's get this done. This is going to be absolutely amazing. And yeah, here we are a year later, having run our first season.
I mean, the interesting thing is, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say it's mildly to the detriment of what we were doing, because we just set up an academy with our shooting club. We're fortunate we've got our own club, and we were bringing some kids on. We were very much looking to put a lot of effort into that. So Rob, who runs our club, the secretary, the amount of extra work he picked up, because the two of us are off playing Hunter somewhere in the country. So it was a massive, very welcome distraction, and it couldn't have come at a better time. Sorry, I think the lag got us then.
No, that's all right. Was there already conversation amongst the shooting community within your guys' group about, because obviously at this point, 2024, NRL Hunter was already in full swing in the US, right? Because I think it started 2020. I remember shooting the first year of NRL Hunters out here, and was there already conversations? And I'm sure there was, right? Of like, oh, what if we brought? And it's always a what if, right? Everyone wants to play the game until it's time to to actually be the ones to stand it up.
I think when I've been at the range at matches and PRS matches and other places, there's always been mention of it. But I think here in the UK, people are that focused right now on precision rifle and qualification for the Great Britain teams, whether it's rim fire or centre fire, and the great work that Andy, Trez and James have done. That's where most of the focus is. That's where a lot of the attention is. What we've actually found is that there's been more excitement here in the UK, not in the precision rifle community, but in the hunting community. So we're very much seeing, apart from a few people that are trying out both, we are very much seeing that hunting community getting more involved in an NRL Hunter, which for us is great, because that's just more people getting involved in competition shooting.
I think the community, you mentioned community before, Phil, about it's worth pointing out that our community in the UK is tiny. So when we talk about what the precision rifle community looks like here, it's tiny. It really is. as a commercial entity, it's a very small bit of the market. It's a very small group of people, so it's a very intense flavour, if you will. It's not diluted down like it is in other countries. That has its own space. But we found ourselves all of a sudden looking at an area of the market that we'd ignored, the hunters, which is a massive community in comparison to precision rifle. I think the hunting community in terms of active hunters is probably 3 or 4 times the size of the entire target market in the UK of all disciplines. So for us, it was a complete paradigm shift in that we were speaking to people that we'd never met before. So a lot that we do know, but it was a completely different group of people who were stood there looking at us saying, "This is great. Where do I sign?"
Yeah.
I can say for the first few matches, we were getting 1 or 2 of that precision rifle crowd coming and shooting, and I think that's only going to continue as we work with other national bodies in the UK who are trying to send their members our way, which is ultimately what's happening. You know, people trying to get their experienced hunters more ethically focused and more efficient and more practiced. So, it's been interesting.
I think the perception of the barrier to entry for the NRL hunter is definitely a lot less, right, than let's say the PRS, because again, as you said, everything evolves over time, and you know, you look at some of the top PRS PR shooters, even in the UK, right? I shot with them at the very tail end of our courses out there, and I was able to see them, you know, a couple years ago at the PRS finale. That, you know, the guys that came over on the other side of the pond. I mean, those guys are running anywhere between $12,000 to $15,000 rigs in US dollars, right? And so I know after talking to those guys, the amount of import fees and stuff that you guys have to go through to even just get US stuff. So like, you know, your minimum barrier to entry, and I could see how intimidating that could be for someone that's like, okay, well, I want to get into precision rifle shooting, but that, like, you know, it goes to say, it's like now that person, very similar to like you know, let's say the sports here in the US, it's like that person immediately is going to football camp and competing with Tom Brady, right? And it's almost debilitating, because, you know, no one wants to show up and get their butt whipped, but like with the NRL hunter, it's like, oh, I can bring my hunting rifle to this thing and learn and just get better with my, you know, equipment, because deep down inside, our ego tells us that like we have to show up and do well, versus, well, I'm just going to show up and I'm going to learn something, right? Because by showing up and, you know, putting myself out there, I'm going to get exposed to something that I'm normally not exposed to at my normal range, right? And I'm sure it's very similar to the UK out here, where on the public ranges, guys getting exciting their rifles in for hunting season. I mean, they shoot off the bench maybe a few boxes, and then now they're ready for hunting season. And the type of stalking that you guys do, I mean, like, you guys are shooting from tripods, from sticks, offhand, right? Because there's,
I think that
based off the vegetation,
that comfort zone thing, and it's one of the few things that Christian and I agreed on from the off. When we opened up what we called the affiliate scheme with the GPRA to bring in clubs, and we brought in the 2.2 version of precision rifle, which didn't exist before we brought it in. There is now PRS 2.2 in the UK, but that didn't exist. And I think bringing that in opened up, it broke down some of those barriers and made people more comfortable to come, because they were going to shoot 2.2 matches, less ammunition cost, typically cheaper rifles, better barrel life. So I think that accessibility thing and breaking down some of those barriers is the key to it. Otherwise, it ends up being F1. And the only way to get into F1 from a perception point of view is with big bags of money. And you can't have that. That's not how you grow something. It has to be grown at the most basic of levels, and then your elite level competitors will always sort of pop out of the top, if you will.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I obviously I shoot both, more so the PRS than NRL hunter. I prefer NRL hunter from the sense of, you know, my days as a sniper, and I feel like there's definitely a lot more skills to be involved in NRL hunter, because you're changing, you know, with a PRS style shooting, you know the distance to the target, you know where the targets are at, right? And one thing that changes that I've seen over my 10 years of instructions, that anytime you introduce any type of new gear or concept, now you have to rework your SOPs, your systems of how you deploy your equipment, right? So what I love about the NRL Hunter is the aspect of finding your target, being able to now get your dope to your target, right? Mm-hmm. And then managing, okay, well, what position do I need to shoot from? Especially when you're not told what position that you shoot from. You're only told, okay, hey, you have to shoot within proximity of this, and I don't care how you do it. You just you got to figure it out, right? And you're doing it completely blind. Comparatively, again, to PRS, you're watching. It's if you got a squad of 10 people, you're watching 9 people in front of you run through the same exact thing, and then by that time, you're like, okay, hey, I could be that guy that does something different, or you can be the guy that just, I call it monkey see, monkey do, right? And I think we're all guilty of being in that position.
I remember our first rimfire match here in the UK, and one of the top UK precision rifle shooters was shooting the match for the first time, and the first stage that he got up to shoot, I was stood watching that stage, and his heart was racing. I've shot alongside him before. I've seen him shoot on numerous occasions. I've never seen him look that nervous, and I think a big part of that was just not knowing what was about to come. Yeah. It's an amazing sport. When you think about the number of skill sets that need to go into it, and how you need to bring that all together under that time pressure.
And it's an interesting reality check when you do bring in that variable. So Christian and I ran a match we called it a teams match. We tried putting on a precision rifle teams type scenario to see if it would take in the UK. And we ran it to a very high level with some military guys there and some of the sort of top few precision rifle shooters in the UK. And I put a blind stage in. And I put a blind stage in with no distances. And the video's there on YouTube to watch how a lot of these sort of very, 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 very experienced and accomplished shooters, all of a sudden, who are used to being given distances, are now having to find things and range things on the hoof. And it always stayed with me that, because I watched everyone step out of the comfort zone. Yeah, because it's a bandstand discipline. Like you say, you can stand and watch someone else do it, and then the mystique disappears. It got easier. But I found that fascinating on the day to have people walk onto a stage to get that stage briefing and be told, "No, we're not going to give you distances. You've got £5,000 optics and rangefinders. You work it out for yourself."
Yeah,
that stuck with me, and it still stays with me whenever we run these hunter matches, because I've watched some phenomenal talents not even find steel. 4 minutes of looking through glass, hoping that something pops up. Buzzer goes off, and then we laugh and joke about it. But that's that extra skill set that you need for hunter, I think, is what separates it from some of the other disciplines I've shot.
4 minutes is not a lot of time when you can't find the target. It goes by so quick, and you're just like, oh no. No, that's awesome. And so what are some of the challenges that you guys face, or are you guys the only two right now hosting matches, and or do you guys have a out here we have match directors in specific areas of the US hosting their own matches, or are you guys running all 100% of the NRL Hunter matches?
Yeah, so we know that the model in the States is that you'll have the range operators and various people that will organise the matches, organise sponsorship, and put the steels out, set up the course of fire, and then look after the match on the actual day. And we are actively working towards implementing that model here in the UK as well, where we've got ranges in Scotland, in Wales, in England. We'd love to have some over in Ireland as well eventually, where we want those ranges to look after the matches themselves and to organise everything, and we'll just support with the bookings and the infrastructure that goes around that. However, in the first year, we were very, very clear that what we needed to do is we needed to set the standard for the competition. and make sure that, everything was consistent with the rules. We took we took the responsibility for making the mistakes, taking the learnings, getting the experience, because then we could pass that on to others to then take forward. So this first year, we wanted to run 4 rimfire matches, 4 centrefire matches. Unfortunately, our Grand Slam had to be postponed in November. A centrefire Grand Slam that's moved to January now because of bad weather. But I've match directed all of those matches. I've set up the courses of fire and everything. Simon obviously has been, there supporting with the setup, running the matches on the day. Simon likes to take care of all the unsexy
things
stuff
that could,
is probably what
all the things that could get you in trouble. So all the stuff that could get you in trouble if
Simon
something
keeps
goes
me out
wrong.
of jail.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's interesting when you talk about we're running it, and I love the model in the US. It's great. The autonomy is fantastic. And I think looking at it now, the one reason we've been so successful is because of the relationships we've got with these ranges. Now, in the UK, it's a very tiny shooting community, as we said before. And there's not a lot of ranges here. When we first started talking about Hunter in the UK, it started to have a very singular feeling, and we said, no, this has got to be national. This has got to be consistent and branded, and it's got to be what Travis runs, because what he runs is, as far as I'm concerned, as near to a perfect product as you're going to get. And he's the first to admit he's bringing it on, and I'm looking forward to some of the evolutions next year. So we had to do that. Now, that's where we've been fortunate in that we already had good relationships with these ranges. I've been working with a lot of them commercially for years, supplying them with ammunition and all sorts of things. So unless you've got that relationship with them, I think it would have been it's going to be difficult. Going forwards, that mutual trust means that we can segue into a relationship whereby it's their match. They run it. We just bring in the consistency that Travis ensures happens in his matches in the States. I have no doubt we'll be at them all anyway. I have no doubt he'll be running around with a rifle and I'll be stood with a bib on shouting at people. But that's where it needs to go. And people want variety. In the UK, we're fortunate to have, I think we've got more ranges at our disposal than any other organisation in the UK, including the National Rifle Association. Mm-hmm. And we've got a couple more coming on next year. So our customers want that variety. Everyone wants variety. And I think it's testament to the people we work with at the ranges that we've been able to put on the matches we have, who've got what we're trying to achieve. They see it. They've got the right characters and skill sets themselves to see that it's a growth area. And I'm optimistic that that's what's going to stand us in really good stead going forward when we cement it as a prominent discipline within the UK.
Yeah, you talk about variety. That's one thing that's nice, obviously, about the shooting in the US is there's with the matches that I've shot, every match director has a specific style and flavor, which you kind of look forward to, for those that have been shooting matches for a while. And one thing I appreciate about it, especially with the more experienced match directors, just understanding the being able to challenge both the experienced shooter, but also make it a very enjoyable experience for that newer shooter, which I think is super important, right, in today's world of again wanting to make the sport more inviting to come to, right? Because again, I get it. We want to challenge sometimes the top guys, but then we forget about the guys that are just coming in, and you don't want them to just never ever find a target over 18 stages or however many, right? And so I very similar to what Travis did the first couple of years. I remember, Travis went to every single match, right? Even though he wasn't the match director, he went to every single match to make sure that, okay, hey, this is going to run the way that I envisioned the NRL Hunter to run. And I mean, it obviously it speaks for itself out here. So that's awesome. What are some of, I guess, since you guys have started, what are the types of shooters that you guys have seen? Obviously you guys see a lot of hunters, but are there, what would you say percentage wise, maybe crossover guys that are shooting for PRS, or even guys that maybe have not even hunted and they just find the format fascinating?
What would you say, Simon? About a third? quarter to a third is a crossover, and the rest. So when we talk about the hunters coming over, we're seeing a mix. So we're seeing people that are out and out hunters, but typically the hunters that are coming over are still people that are quite familiar with going to the range. So they might not be precision rifle competitive shooters, but the majority of people are fairly confident and comfortable being around a range. So that's the majority of people, hunters that also go to the range. Then you've got the precision rifle shooters, and then the out and out hunters.
And I've been surprised at that, the professionals that have come. So people who knock deer down for a living, that's what they do. Watching them come into it, some of these people have never been on a range aside to zero rifle at 100. Watching them come into it, and I've been fortunate. I've not had to do much ROing. I've been able to float around, to take a step back and watch these people and how they apply themselves on the stage. It's unlike anything that you see in any other dynamic shooting discipline. You know, these guys are hardwired, heavy skill set guys who even sling a rifle a certain way because it's how hunters do it. And I think that crossover is going to be so important for people to share skill sets and for people to pick up on efficiency points and optimum kit. So I think we've got a really healthy blend here. I think Christian alluded to it before. We've been in an international qualifier for 2-2. So it was the World Championships IPRF World Championships in this year. So a lot of the people that would have come and shot 2-2 from the precision rifle world were too busy focusing on that. And I'm from speaking to some of those, I think, and from watching some of the comments that people from the precision rifle world have made, that they see it growing and they want to get involved. I can see the involvement of more precision rifle shooters next year. I think we lost Christian, who's disappeared off. I think it's like anything, it's going to evolve, but it's been a fascinating dynamic so far.
What do you think would be, as it grows, what do you think some of the challenge, the challenges you think you guys are going to face as it continues to, evolve?
I think keeping it honest is the most important question I ask us on a regular basis. I challenge us and say we need to keep this honest. And I think the commercialization of it is something that you need to manage very carefully. What you see in America is difficult to replicate anywhere else, certainly in terms of, and I'll hang my hat on prize tables, which I've done before, a very contentious issue for a lot of people. But in a small country like the UK, prize tables and sponsorship money is something you've got to use very, very carefully. The reason being is if you're a podium guy and your plan is to get on the podium and be the most winningest, as you across the pond would call them, then that's what you're looking for. But that's a small fraction of the community that we're working with, who they need it to be seen to be honest, and they need to see that we're investing in it properly. So I think that's the biggest challenge. We've had some sponsors, some partners, as we call them, come to us and want to want to dominate a prize table by buying their way onto it. And we've had to sort of say that's not what we're doing. We'd rather provide discounts to members for entry fees, equipment, ammunition, because that way everyone benefits from it. And I know prize tables work in that everyone should get a prize who's turned up to a match, but it's a very, and I'm not one for participation trophies at all, but I think if you want to make a sport accessible and grow it, you've got to look at those points, keeping it honest, keeping it transparent, and making it as accessible to everyone as possible.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that the comment about, using donations or using, sponsorship money to help alleviate maybe some of the fees that get associated with showing up to a match, right? I mean, and again, I realize that running a match sometimes is a business model. There's a lot of expenses that go into running a match. But lately match fees have been absolutely outrageous here in the States. And again, for someone that is fortunate enough to be in the industry, usually I'm able to get some type of discount of a match, whether it's through a sponsor. or it's covered, right? But again, trying to be empathetic to that newer shooter, right? That is like, okay, hey, I want to get an NRL hunter, but then not realizing, oh crap, now, especially if they're traveling, let's say from the very south side of the UK, right? Let's say the only match that lines up is a match that you guys are hosting on the very north side. Well, now that person has to accommodate for his travel time, his or her stay, right? And then potentially, right, the amount of ammo, so it all adds up. And next thing you know, you're what, 2,000 pounds deep into the weekend.
Easy, without even trying. And I can resonate with what you're saying. I mean, I'm fortunate. I haven't picked a rifle or ammunition up for years that wasn't provided by my business. I'm not having to put my hand in my pocket to replace things, but the vast majority of people are. And I think a lot of, I'll use the term sponsored shooter because it's a very misunderstood term, certainly in the UK. We've no full ticket shooters over here. We've got people that typically are supported by industry, who offset that cost, and it allows them a great opportunity to be competitive at an international level. But it also raises a few questions with the person trying to get into the sport at the lowest possible level. And I think that's where Hunter differs from precision rifle and some other disciplines, CSR and F-class, in that you can get into this sport with a very, very modest setup. Certainly on the rimfire side, it's nice to have the top end ammunition, your SKs and your Midas and stuff, but even you don't even need that. So it's for us, it's leveled the playing field a bit in terms of barriers to entry, because the cost is much lower. I mean, we can make as much effort as we can to bring match fees down and membership fees and discounts off rifles and kit, but there's still a cost. But I think when you look at hunting, and I always hark back to, we've got a UK shooter, he'll forgive me for talking about him, a chap called Tom Rice, and I remember him coming to his first precision rifle match with a Seiko hunting rifle and a hunting optic, mild reticled optic, and he was brilliant, and he did well because the skill of the rifle was just something that in time has evolved, but he was still able to be competitive with that rifle. And I think that's what's happened in precision rifle, is that people don't think you can be competitive with lesser quality. You really can. You really can with the more modest stuff, and that's why the crowd that we're seeing coming to us in Hunter don't seem to be a precision rifle crowd, because they've spent their life performing with modest kit. A lot of them are ex-military, police officers that are given relatively modest kit in the grand scheme of things, so they're used to functioning without a massive budget. So I think that for me is the key: keeping it honest, keeping it affordable, trying to remind people that you can come and have fun, because this isn't about going to the Olympics. This is about having fun, getting away for the weekend, having a beer and a barbecue. You can have fun without blowing the bank. Christian will tell you the other side, because he's got a son, so he had to take his son to precision rifle matches and spend $1 million on a weekend. So it's a dangerous game because people just burn out. You can't afford to do it forever. You really can't.
Well, the community by far is probably, again, my favorite aspect of the shooting sport, right? I always say that the community had when I transitioned out of the military, had honestly saved my life in terms of just the number one overwhelming support that I got from the shooting community to continue doing what I love, right? Of teaching people how to shoot a rifle, but just going to matches and just being, them being super kind to my family, and then, being able to call them and even hang out with these people that have become close friends of mine over the weekend. That's not even shooting related. Right. And so, my push to, people joining joining the shooting sport is not just, okay, hey, dump money into the industry, but find yourself a community of people that that eventually become your best friends. Right.
Well, you talked at the beginning of the podcast there, Philip, about how it's the match directors and the people that are organising these sports that, not a thankless task, but we're doing a bit of a service for other people so that they can enjoy the shooting. But quite honestly, whether I'm match directing or competing, I just love the weekends away, camping out with people, having a barbecue, couple of beers, just talking nonsense and having a good time. It's fantastic, and I'd rather be match directing and doing that than anything else. It's fantastic.
That's awesome, and it goes to show your commitment to the growth of your sport, and why you guys are going to do well. And yeah, I'm looking forward to working with you guys coming next year and in future events. So, what would you say based off of what you've seen, through social media and stuff like that in the U.S. Like, what would you see for your guys' shooting community out there, some of the friction points with shooters, maybe on the clock or like actually during the actual shooting event, right? What are some of the common, like friction points that they face? Whether it's finding targets, whether it's shooting, whether it's,
I remember when I used to go to my first precision rifle matches. The thing that people, more experienced shooters, used to drum into the people that were just turning up for the first time or had only started to get into the sport was around their admin when they're preparing to go up onto the stage. Make sure you're reloading your magazines, all of the basic simple things. Make sure your kit's all organized where you can get to it quickly, and then when you go up onto the stage, you're not rushing around and making silly mistakes. And you start to see that, and that to a large degree has moved on leaps and bounds. You don't see people struggling with their admin as much as what you used to in the early days of precision rifle. But in NRL Hunter, what I am seeing is people just with that stage management. So the amount of videos I've watched, where your videos as well, where you'll talk through and demonstrate, the basic process of up on the stage, looking for your targets while you're grounding your rifle in a safe position, dropping your bag, getting your tripod, and there's a method to it, and there's a routine. That's what I think most of the shooters that we see at our matches, if they're going to struggle, it's that. It's making sure that they're being very efficient with their movement, making effective use of their time, and while they are doing all of that, all those admin bits, all the time looking for the target. You don't need to be on the glass to start looking and trying to find those targets. And I think the people that we see do better at our matches are those that are making the most out of the time that they do have.
I think the other thing that we see people excelling, if another skill is what we're looking for, is the ability to have that physical exertion and manage it. So a lot of shooting sports today, you can walk from one point to another. Yeah, you might get a little bit out of breath going from prone to standing or whatever it might be. But we've seen people marching up and down hills, arriving at stages out of breath. Then if your kit isn't squared away, it gets worse. But they're then going onto a stage and they're learning that essential skill that anyone from a military or an LEO background's got. That you've got to be able to manage your breathing. You've got to be able to manage yourself on a stage when you've arrived to it. In far from an ideal set of circumstances. That's where a lot of the experienced hunters stand out. They're used to getting all the way up to the top of a hill. The deer pops up. They haven't got the luxury of giving it 5 minutes to gather themselves. They've got to get themselves squared away. And I think Hunter is a great tool for that, bringing in some real world skills that other people, unless they've been in either professional hunting environment or they've been from a military and LEO background, they're not. I used to get marched up and down hills and people used to do star jumps and things like that. The customer doesn't want that now. They don't want to be out of the comfort zone. Whereas with Hunter, I think they're a lot more comfortable being put under that pressure. And some of the walking we do on our match, I don't know what it's like in the States, but we have people actually tabbing to get to things. these guys are blowing out the backsides when they're landing at stage, and then one of us is shouting, "Have you sorted your magazines out? Are you ready to go?" And yeah, that for me is a big plus of it. That extra skill that you can't get in another shoot sport in the UK. Not that I've seen anyway.
Yeah. The matches out here, what they've started incorporating, I didn't know this until last year, is they started incorporating like a physical exertness level. I can't remember what the actual terminology that the NRL Hunter uses, but when I went to shoot Alaska last year after I had wrapped up a bunch of courses, my buddy Will was like, yeah, they're this is supposed to be like on the highest scale. And I was like, wait, there's a scale for physical exertion, which makes sense, right? Like to prepare someone, right? And I mean, it was definitely a gut check for some people. I mean, I know I was sore after the couple of days of shooting, but yeah, I mean, I think fitness, just like anything else, right? I think it should be definitely, it's definitely an overlooked part of this sport, right? In terms of like actually, maintaining. We're not looking for you to be a marathon runner, a triathlete, but maintaining some type of healthy lifestyle, right? And going to the gym or going on hikes or rucks, at least 1 to 3 times, so that it's not the first time that you're exposed to a vertical movement at a NRL Hunter match while now trying to shoot targets and find targets, right?
So go on.
No, I was just going to say it's the terrain once you're actually on the stage as well. Mm-hmm. So you go to a precision rifle match and it's a nice flat surface, and there's your barricade, and you can access it without tripping over, and everything's neat and sedate and sanitized. You come to an NRL Hunter match and it's clear fell. There's divots and ditches and puddles and ponds and all sorts of obstacles. And we have to remind people just to be careful as they get to the firing point, because obviously they're carrying a rifle, but that's where the hunters do well. They understand that they're not always going to have a firm footing. They understand that they're going to have to get the bodies into contorted positions to be able to get a stable firing position. And that's what we try and bring into our matches. We try to challenge people with the actual terrain. So yeah, it's interesting to see how people manage it, especially when there's a few brambles around.
Yeah, I think when you say about that mindset of taking responsibility for your physicality or your physical capabilities, there's quite a few people I think will be watching this from the UK who will have had the misery of listening to my range safety briefings. But we at the end of every safety briefing, you get the boring stuff out of the way, and I talk to people about hydrating. I talk to people about not, the biggest problem we have in the UK is people flaking out on the range on a hot day because they're not hydrating, they're not looking after themselves. Now, if you come, you're nodding your head because if you come from a military background, that's basics. Yeah. You can't fight dry. And little things like we Christian. This is Christian's success point in that we do a little goodie bag for each of our matches. And if it's in the winter, they go out with a hand warmer, some chocolate, a bottle of water, and a few other bits and bobs. And those little things is what you become a paying customer. You expect a degree of being looked after. Yeah. I think in most disciplines, you go onto it, like Christian says, a very clinical range, and you don't have to think about those things. Your car's 2 seconds away in case you get a bit hungry or a bit thirsty. Whereas the mindset of a lot of people that come to our matches and the people that engage in Hunter is they're used to being out in the middle of nowhere for a long time and being self-sufficient. They are aware of the physical requirements of it. And we've had some really fit guys come. The military boys come in, and some of the ex-military boys and the guys with AI, they were getting up and down these big hills without even bothering. I found myself having to drag a few people up. I was like being some support donkey, dragging people's kit up. I couldn't carry the kit for them because that'd break the rules. But these are guys with full mil-spec AIs trying to get up and down these massive hills.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good. And I think going forwards, it's our obligation to have those conversations and to try and keep people healthy, and to try and make sure they're thinking about themselves and not flaking out, because there's nothing worse than someone getting injured on a range. It just ruins the day for everyone.
Yeah, and one of the things I always think about is when you're shooting an NRL hunter match, right? Again, comparatively to you going to the range and sighting your rifle in or enjoying yourself, right? Typically there's and again, I don't know how your guys' matches are ran in terms of like how much, how many stages per, is it typically like 9 stages per day with, maybe 15 to 20 minutes in between each stage with a kind of, waiting for someone in front of you to shoot? Or is it pretty turnkey?
Is he gone quiet? Because I'd normally let him answer this one, but I think is he frozen? Oh, go on.
No, I'm still here. So it really depends. Certain ranges bring certain limitations with them. So we'll try and have a minimum of 8 stages per day. Some of our matches are 1-day matches. Some of our matches are 2-day matches. For quite a lot of our rimfire matches, we've been able to squeeze 12 stages into a day. So making sure that we give that real good value for money in terms of lots of stages to shoot across, and we keep a fast pace. So you shoot a stage, move straight on to the next one. You're usually only waiting behind 1 or 2 people, and then you're straight up again and shooting.
Okay, so between, let's say, 8 stages a day, I still think for the average shooter, that's like the amount of decisions you're making within those, let's say, 32 shots or even 64 shots if you end up missing, right? Because you guys have the same exact format, right? It's a dead target rule, three styles of course fire. So 8 stages a day, you're taking at max 32 shots, or at minimum 32 shots, at max 64 shots. But the amount of decisions you're making to take those shots, 10 times as much as you would go to a normal range, right? And so you start, at least here in the States, you start to see the shooters that are not used to that marathon of shooting within a day, start getting burned out, and you always see the guys that you hear the guys like, okay, I did really well in the morning, but I sucked in the afternoon, or vice versa. It's like it took them a while to get warmed up, and where people are going to find success, obviously, is maintaining that consistency throughout the day, right? And then just understanding that, right? Like how to best prepare for that. If your audience is listening to this and it's like, okay, well, how do I go to the range and I train? Well, if you want to be successful at these NRL hunt as you start to climb, it's like, really, you should try to maximize as much time as you can at the range to mimic what you would experience at a 1-day or 2-day match versus, okay, hey, I'm going to go to the range for an hour and a half at max to train and shoot 40, 50 rounds. And that's not realistic, right? Because you're going to have downtime. You're going to be, shooting 4 minutes, maybe waiting after you've downloaded your gear, re-upped your mag, moving to the next stage. You probably got anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes before you shoot again, right? So emotionally, you're always up and down, right? And especially like if you take a stage, right, you get to this, you do really well on stage 1, you get to stage 2 and you can't find the target. Now you got a 0, right? That emotional swing to manage is hard, right? And it's a part of the game, right? But ultimately, you're getting, after shooting one of these events, you're getting way more training than you would in a year of you going to the range by yourself and training how you envision, training or practice should be.
And I think some of the contact we've had since we've been running this from people who need that training has demonstrated that the merit of it. And I know we'll talk about it later, but the sort of people that benefit from the sort of training that you deliver, we've had people reach out to us and say, we like what you're doing. It's the most relevant way we can upskill some of our staff. And it's equally people that aren't from a police or military background who are on the side of a hill all the time. This is the most credible training you're going to get. Now, we have a term over here called simulated stalking. I don't know if you use it in the States. And it's how people have prepared to hunt for decades, if not longer, in the UK. And it is literally just what we're doing, but at a much lower level, typically a sedate walk on, typically some sort of blind stage, and typically a very modest targetry problem to have downrange. Again, that's something that has never been done in a coordinated fashion. So it's never really appealed to the majority of people that need it as a skill set. So I think what we've done is by bringing, like you say, constant movement. Right, you finished up, you go. Thanks a lot. Sign this piece of paper. Get around the corner. Get ready for your next stage. Get all your kit squared away. No, don't go that way. Go this way. And you're stress testing people all the time. There is quite simply nothing like it, and it's been a joy to watch people react so positively to it. No moaning. We don't get people moaning. When it rains, don't get me wrong, everyone moans when it rains. But we had a chap called, he'll forgive me for naming him, we had a chap called Justin Wilhite come over from the States. You may have shot with him in the past. He's a great guy. And he came to Wales in possibly the worst rain he will ever shoot in. And he just had a smile on his face the whole time. He was embracing the suck as much as possible, but he was taking it for a phenomenal learning experience. And that's what it's going to be about. And that's why I love it.
He said he's never shot in conditions like it. I mean, that was a match. We had to curtail it. The weather got that bad. We lost a couple of stages towards the end of the day. The rain was coming in horizontally across open mountainsides. And, Justin was like, yeah, we don't get this back home.
For some of your, let's say newer shooters that come, and let's say it's their first match, what type of, especially, you see the ones that get hooked, right? They're like, oh, I'm going to do this again. Right. And, at that point, they're up, in my opinion, for a quick sell with regard to training, right? In terms of like, okay, hey, take this class with this person. What type of training programs do you guys have out there currently for a new shooter wanting to get into this style of shooting, or even just like have a fundamental approach to shooting a modern precision rifle, right? And I say that because out here in the States, you have your traditional quote unquote rifle courses like NRA certified and stuff like that, but those guys are teaching like very bare bones basics of like how to shoot a rifle. And in my opinion, when it comes to like shooting a precision rifle, there are certain mechanics that you have to apply to really truly maximize that rifle system, right? In terms of, being nice and square behind the rifle, understanding natural point of aim with a bolt action system comparatively, let's say, to an AR, and I might be catching some flack on this in terms of fundamentals, but, a fundamentally sound person that maybe has taken an NRA style course is not anywhere near the same skill level of a person that has truly understood and dissected what it takes to drive a precision rifle, if that makes sense. So, back to my original question, like what type of like training programs do you guys have out there in the UK?
I think the first thing to say is that the elephant in the room is there are a lot of people in the shooting industry who don't receive the offer of training well. So there are lots of people out there who spend a lot of time and money on the range who aren't open to the discussion of improving the skill set. They're in a comfort zone they've created for themselves. And I think where you pitch yourself in that market is so important. I think if you accept the fact that some people want to find a credible skill set to develop as opposed to what someone will tell them they need to learn, and you have a dialogue from the off, that's when you find out what people really want to learn. Now, in the UK, we have a very poor training structure. We have the National Rifle Association, who I doubt are listening to this, but if they are, they've got a training syllabus that hasn't changed in 30 years. And I know because I instruct it. And it's very much geared on fundamentals, vernier sights, and things that haven't been used for a long time now. What's been great is that with the growth of precision rifle over here, that those skills and those pieces of kit have found their way into the training conversation now in the UK. Now, that's target shooting, and that's moved on well. There has never been a training system or structure for hunting in the UK, full stop. And I can say that with confidence because we were approached by a national organisation who were involved in the coordination of hunting in the UK to work with them about what a training structure should look like. And we've been fortunate we've been able to build it from the ground up. Now, that involves that whole performance pyramid, which I've spoken about in the past, of people coming to that first training event before they're even going to entertain going to a match, all the way up to the people at the very top. Now, we have a big gap in the middle in the UK where we don't have a structure that allows professionals to be taught by professionals in terms of hunting and running a precision rifle anywhere, because it's the same skill. Let's be straight about it. It's the same skill anywhere, whether you're in a field or whether you're on a lookout tower or whatever it might be. So for us, we've got to make sure we capture everything. We've got to start at the bottom with the real basics, which we're doing with 2-2 and some organisations are going to work to. Then we've got to look to invest in the instructors in the UK, which is something I'm really passionate about. We've got some really talented coaches. I'll call them coaches because they'll give you the support. Typically, they've not got a formal training background. Typically, they've not got a national syllabus to work to. And I'm optimistic, certainly with the support we've got from yourself in relation to what we can build for the next 5 or 10 years. We can look to try and build an infrastructure, because training's all well and good if you've got the right people to deliver credible material, they're properly qualified, they're the right character. Because I could swear, because it's this time of night, but I've been on the range with some arseholes in my time, and you switch off from them. No mind's getting beasted by a talented instructor, but if you've not got the right personality to instruct, you shouldn't be instructed. Full stop. So it's a massive task for us, and we're delighted to have you involved.
Yeah, no, it's exciting, and when I went out to the UK a couple of years ago with James and Andy and Trez, I mean, I think your shooters out there are so hungry for what is happening in the States in terms of the instruction that is happening in the States between the phenomenal different training companies that we have out here. Obviously, K&M, Alta Shooting Solutions. You've got JTAC, right? You've got the well-known Jacob Bynum at Rifles Only. But specific to competitive shooting, I would say K&M, JTAC. And I think Rifleman's Path with Andy Slade, and so I think what a lot of people, and this is said more commonly now than before, is like, just because you're a good shooter doesn't necessarily mean you have the tools to be able to teach somebody, right? What you're doing,
Yeah.
And I've seen that time and time again with top level competitors that I compete with all the time, and I have their students come through my class. It's like, hey, I took a class with so-and-so, and it was it was kind of like a quote unquote advanced level class, but I just felt like I was hanging with the boys, because there was really no structure to it. Right. Mm-hmm. It's like, sure, they were giving me tips and tricks, but I could have learned that watching them by, going to and squatting with them at a match, right? What they taught me over a 2-day weekend. And now I spent $1,500, whatever. And so, one of the most important things that I've found over my, 15 years of teaching is having a structure, right? Of like, okay, hey, this is what progression looks like. And having, what's the word I'm looking for? Benchmarks for them of their progression. Like, okay, hey, this is where you were when you started, and now this is where you're at after, let's say, 50 rounds or a half a day of training. Versus, okay, hey, let's try this, one thing, and because this is what I do, right? But without actually understanding how to break it down to the most simplest way. Because again, everyone learns differently, right? And everyone receives information differently. And I think a good teacher or instructor knows how to break those barriers down versus, okay, hey, this is how I do it. And if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, then I can't help you. Right. Which again, works for a select few. But now if you're trying to cater to a whole audience of different learners, again, you're only capturing 25% of the market when you potentially could capture at least 80 to 100. Right.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because in the first week in January, we're running an instructor's course, and there's people who are running some of the busiest ranges in the UK coming on this course. And these guys are ex-military, they know how to run a range. But when we're sort of explaining to them what they're going to learn on this course, they're like, there's different learning styles. What do you mean there's different ways that people learn? Really? You can't just, and I think unless you've had that approach to it, that you can't just say the same words over and over again and expect people to get it. Or you can't shout, or you can't use some story about what you did to justify what the skill that you teach it. And that's for me, that's what a credible, structured training infrastructure looks like. And that's what, from speaking to Travis and some of the organisations in the UK, we're excited to build it. I'll be honest, I'm more excited about the training element from NRL Hunter than I am for the matches. The matches are great, they're great fun. People laughing and having a great time and develop themselves as hunters. But the ability to build a meaningful legacy, training legacy in the UK, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning when it comes to this. Because there's nothing better than watching people develop because of your input, whatever that input might be. It's a great thing to achieve in life. Excuse me.
Yeah, and that's the future of any organization, right? Is being able to now take your leaders and your top level guys and pay it forward. And there are I know there are shooters out there like Andy and James that already started to pay it forward, right, in their own way of like, hey, I want to be able to teach, right? Because there's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing better than seeing those light bulbs turn on, right, when you're explaining these high level concepts. Initially, like at the most like ground level when I first started teaching, I mean, I still get excited now, but like when someone that has never picked up a precision rifle and I'm able to get them out to 1,100 yards and they're like, I can't believe I just did that. I mean, that's cool. But like for me, at where I'm at in terms of my experience level as a teacher, like my favorite is people being able to like see every single one of their shots, especially at those closer distances, right? Being like, okay, I used to not be able to see where my bullets are going. Like, I used to be able to manage recoil well, or see my trace, or get 10 out of 10 on this PRS barricade, whatever the case is. And so I think for our relationship, and one of the things that we talked about is me going over there and helping hopefully bring that structure to the NRL Hunter UK, in terms of, okay, hey, you're going to have those top level guys that eventually are going to want to teach and build their brand out there. Okay, hey, what does a structure look like for them to be successful, right? So that they're not just throwing stuff at a wall and making it try to stick, because
it's the difference between, so it's like the reloading course is the analogy we use quite often.
Yeah,
anyone can go on a reloading course and become better or more accurate, produce more accurate ammunition. But a proper reloading course, you'll understand why. And that's the difference. The amount of people that pay to go on reloading courses and come away with much better ammunition, don't get me wrong, but they never truly understand why that's happened.
Yeah.
And they're the two things. One is what a lot of people accept as training. The other is that understanding where you can walk away saying, that person knows, and I probably never have to tell them again. And you're right, that's the difference.
Yeah. And it's always my goal too as an instructor. Oh, go ahead, Christian.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say, it's also my hope that we have people attending the courses next September for two different reasons. I'd love to see those people that want to attend because they want to become more proficient in that competition environment and be more successful in NRL Hunter competition. But I'd also love to see the hunters there also that want to improve maybe on their marksmanship skills or another aspect of how they manage their gear or something else. Because as Simon said, for hunters in the UK, there is training available, but in my experience, it doesn't focus on the marksmanship aspects and being a good shooter. It focuses more on how to identify different types of deer and other aspects of hunting.
And it's funny that you say that. Yeah, I that's very also common here in the States is obviously identifying different types, but also like safety, like just understanding the basics of how to operate a firearm. But one of the things that a lot of people also overlook is the fact that like we're all instructors at some point, especially in this being a male dominant field, is more commonly. I get a lot of questions of dads that want to get their kids into this sport, right? And it's like, hey, how would I put my son on a proper trajectory so that I don't develop bad habits, or I don't put bad habits in him, right? Because they realize after maybe watching my videos or taking my training, they're like, oh gosh, I'm I have a bunch of bad habits. And as I've evolved as an instructor, I like to say they're not really bad habits. They're just inefficiencies, you know? So like when you come to class, I'm trying to make you as more efficient with your rifle as you possibly can. Because before you even came to class, you were, as a hunter, you were successful, right? You have killed things that you normally probably wouldn't have killed or whatever the case is. But my goal is to make you more efficient and understand what your true capability behind that rifle system is. But more importantly, if you do come there and it's like, okay, hey, I've watched all your videos and you're not teaching me anything new. Well, at least hear it from the sense of like, okay, if you're now going to be able to teach your son or somebody that you want to get into sport, listen to it as from an ear of an instructor. Oh, hey, he phrased natural point of aim this way, or he phrased how to properly, mount or connect to the rifle this way, or whatever the case is. And I think that's one thing that I encourage shooters to do, to take training, is like, okay, well, if you feel like you have a good fundamental base, then at least go and hear it from how he breaks it down as an instructor. That way you can now pay it forward to maybe a shooter that you take under your wing, or again, your kids or your nephews, whatever the case might be.
Yeah, good way to look at it. Excellent.
I mean, we're fortunate. We spend a lot of our time on the range, as glamorous as it is running matches and what have you. We spend most of our time on the range bringing new shooters into clubs, kids, and we both got kids who we have that very same problem with. But spending time with novices is good for the soul, because there's nothing better than an honest, an innocent question on a range. Nothing better. We've all seen it. You've been surrounded by really experienced shooters on a range, and everyone wants to ask that question, but no one's brave enough to ask it. And I guarantee it'll be a kid or a new shooter that'll ask. Guarantee it, 100%. And I think the environment of training is so important. So you can have that honest conversation. You'll always get a few ringers. You'll always get people that come on training. I call them hostages. You'll get the hostages that come on a course that don't want to be there, but the boss has told them that, we run some GSW courses and there's people that come because they have to. And they're literally holding them hostage for 2 days on a course. But I think if you can build the right environment, then that is, I think, at least half of training is people being comfortable that they can ask those questions and feel that it's a safe place to make a mistake. So it's I think it's something we're optimistic. We share a lot of common ground on, and I think it's going to be a very good 2026 when it comes to training in the UK.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it, which brings us to training in 2026 with you guys.
Do you like that? Do you like that? That was a segue. That lots of practice, lots of training.
So these kind gentlemen have asked, with in partnership with the NRL Hunter, is essentially to host a series of classes out there specific to NRL hunting, or just precision shooting in general, but the focus more being NRL Hunter. And I think we're doing three different styles of courses out there. Number one being the intro to NRL Hunter. And so already, ever since we kind of launched, I've been getting questions with regard to, what that encompasses, right? Intro to NRL Hunter. And, I want to say that the best way that I would explain it, it's my foundational level course, or the foundational level course that we teach with NRL Hunter concepts, right? In terms of, okay, hey, this is, the applying the basic principles and foundational mechanics of shooting a precision rifle in an NRL Hunter format, right? So you're looking at basic gear management, right? Of like, okay, hey, this is the steps that I would take when I'm running an NRL Hunter format stage of, okay, I'm going to ground my rifle safely. I'm going to now pull my tripod out, whatever the case is, identify my targets. This is my observation techniques. And then now once I find my target, going through my process of gathering data, and working through my systematic approach of how I now engage that specific target. And then we'll break down the three styles of stages. You've got your 4 position, 1 target, 2 position, 2 target, and your 4 positions, 1 target, or four targets, 1 position. I always mix that up because it's the same over. Yeah,
I always do that too.
you know, and so I think there's specific, you know, techniques to apply for those, especially when it comes to managing data or managing, you know, picking, you know, a firing position, whatever is. But most importantly, it's understanding the dynamic of an NRL hunter match so that you could be best prepared to shoot one and have an enjoyable experience, right? You know, I hope the expectation is not to, okay, I'm going to take an NRL hunter match and do very well. You know, my goal is for you to do well, obviously, but more or less just have a more enjoyable experience and have some training takeaways for you to be able to now train on your own. You know, I think that's what's most important for me as an instructor is like, okay, hey, these are the tools that I'm going to give you so that you don't need me anymore, right? Which I think is important is like, okay, hey, this is what I want you to do and how you could train after the fact, after, you know, we left or after you've shot a match, look at the stages that you did terrible on and dissect them from a training skill standpoint of like, okay, hey, this stage here really forced me to shoot from the standing position and I got a 0 on it. Well, clearly I need to peel back the layers and I need to work on my standing position next time I'm at the range, right? And just isolating that specific training task. Or, hey, for this style of, you know, or for this stage, I couldn't find the target. Okay, well, then clearly we need to identify our, you know, systematic approach for looking for targets. And I think going to a course will hopefully, you know, pinpoint those things and be able to give you the tools to correctly figure out a way. Okay, hey, this is how I could structure my next training day to accommodate that.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. That whole understanding and having a system, and you saying you won't need me again. The amount of people I see, certainly in longer range shooting, writing lots of data down about things, books on books on books of ballistic data, and I'll say to people, "What are you doing with that?" And they'll say, "Well, I'm writing it down, aren't I?" But what's your process for then evolving and using that data to better inform your decision making or your kit or your processes? And people don't have that. There's only so many Ryan Kleckner or Frank Galley books you can read that try and explain to you what you should use in terms of a process of evolution.
Yeah.
So that's where the value is for me, is that someone could listen to someone with real world experience about how to bring change about, evidence-based change. Yeah, we all every now and again just take a sweep and have a go and something improves. Oh, that works. That backfill works better than something else, whatever it might be. But having a system, if you want to get better, and the beauty of Hunter is it's not just about winning a trophy, and this is about ethical hunting, getting on that animal that you wouldn't normally get on, being more efficient. There's a real reward at the end of it, and making people better hunters, safer hunters, and enjoying the time on the hill. So yeah, the legacy is so important. People walking away understanding how they can develop themselves is, for me, what they're coming and paying for.
Yeah, and a lot of times people, or one of the things that I want to definitely emphasize too, when someone attends, let's say one of my hunter courses is my goal. If I'm training you as a hunter, my goal is not to extend your range, right? My goal is for you to understand what your capability and limitation is behind a precision rifle, right? To expose you to, hey, you know, this might get a little hairy. So if you find yourself in this position when you're out in the field, you probably should get closer, right? Matt Alwine made a beautiful post a couple weeks ago. He was hunting with another experienced NRL hunter shooter, and they talked about, they got within 900, the wind was cooking, and they got closer. They got to 600, and they could have taken the shot, but because wind was just ripping so hard, they were just like, we just need to get closer, and they got within 300, right? Which again, for most people would say that that's still a pretty far shot, but knowing where I probably know in the area that they were hunting, that's the closest that they could possibly get for, and based off their skill, they made a beautiful shot on a great buck, and what I appreciate about that post is, Matt Alwine is arguably the best NRL hunter shooter in the world at the moment, right? And he would probably go down as one of the best because he's a 5-time grand champ. But his understanding of like, hey, my limitations of being able to call wind at that distance, right? Allowed them to make the smart decision of getting closer to 300 yards. And that would hopefully be my goal, is to expose the shooters to that, in saying that, the NRL Hunter doesn't put you in these situations to extend your range. It allows you to, number one, be comfortable and confident in your equipment, right? But more importantly, right, understand what those capabilities and limitations are, and hopefully, allow you to grow as a shooter. Because as much as we want to go to the, maybe these matches and clean it, right? If you did that as a match director, where every target was findable, every target was, let's say, 4 MOA, sure, people are having a good time, but you're also not challenging them and allowing them to grow as a shooter, and I tell that to my students all the time. Like, after, like, let's say the second day training day, if they have a 3-day class with me, on the third day, I really ramp it up, put some small targets out there. And I mean, I crush their souls, and they're like, and I tell them, I'm like, hey, the first 2 days were a daisy, but if I didn't challenge you as a shooter, then you're not going to grow. If I kept just kind of patting your ass, yes, I'm putting you in comfortable situations with the first 2, but on that third day, like, if you really want to grow, then you need to get outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that about the aim is not to have you shooting further or hunting further. If there's one criticism, not criticism, but if people are being skeptical about what an NRL hunter is, when we brought it over to the UK, was this perception that it's about trying to get hunters to take longer distance shots. And we keep saying the same message. It's not about that whatsoever. And I think you've just really articulated it very well there.
It's a recent post we had where this conversation came up, and people ask, why are you putting targets out at 800 now? One of our coaches, who he runs the range at Orion, John O'Brien, we're very fortunate to have him on board. He's an experienced ex-military guy, but also a very experienced stalker and stalking instructor. And he talks about the recovery shot. Every shooter, every hunter at some point in their life will take a recovery shot, and it will be at a distance or in a place they're not comfortable with. And unless you're training for that, you're failing your obligation to be safe and ethical in your hunting. No one wants to, certainly in the UK, no one wants to engage deer at less than safe distance. But every now and again, something gets hit badly or some circumstances get in the way, and we end up having to take a shot where we're outside of our comfort zone. Our challenge is to improve the skills so they've got the skill to do it, but also teach them the ethics behind it, when to take that shot. It's not just about lying on the bonnet of your car and knocking things down 800 metres. It's about becoming a better hunter. So yeah, I'm glad, like Christian says, I'm glad you've raised that, because it's a really, really important point.
Moving to the other 2 classes, which are like kind of advanced in a what I call a performance competition. Those are more, for the shooters that are already experienced with NRL Hunter and really want to take that next level to hopefully, get the pay. So these are the serious guys that are invested into the sport. But it's and for the guys that are just getting into it and maybe want to again figure out what that takes, that's for them too, right? It's for the guys that, okay, hey, now I'll learn a little bit more wind concepts, right? Because 2 days realistically for to immerse yourself in this style of shooting, I mean, it's a lot of information, just those 2 days, right? And so just being careful, and the thing is like, I'll be back, right? It's like, sure, we've got a week of training in September, but this is my second time coming to the UK. I know it's not going to be my last time, and it's just one of those hopefully opportunities to just be able to meet new shooters and show them my training or my teaching style, right? And then hopefully, like I said, bring and encourage some of the shooters there, because I'm sure I've already gotten a couple of messages from a couple of the guys that have taken my previous class that want to train, and maybe they're coming to go from that in that instructor aspect, right? It's like, hey, they've already heard everything that I had to say the first time, right? So maybe they're not going to go there to learn anything new in terms of a fundamental skill, but maybe they're learning because maybe they are slightly teaching classes on the side in terms of like, doing these onesies, twosies at the range, which is okay, which is completely fine, right? But now they're looking at it from an aspect of, hey, how is Phil breaking this down so that now I can actually teach this to my mentee or somebody that I'm mentoring, right? And I hope that's the case, right? Of guys taking those more intermediate and advanced classes. I don't have Simon. Do you have the dates in front of you?
I knew you were going to say that. Stand by. I've got them somewhere.
First two days, Orion Firearms training, and that is the 5th and 6th of September.
5th and 6th. The intro to NRL Hunter. Yep.
Yeah, I can't forget that because it's my wife's birthday on the 4th of September.
Okay.
and then I can't remember the other dates.
8 through 10.
There we go. 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Advanced precision rifle for a 3-day.
And then do we have 11th, 12th, and 13th?
Yep. Performance competition.
Yeah, so that first introduction to NRL Hunter is at Orion Firearms Training in Mid Wales. An absolutely beautiful range, very dramatic. And then the second two courses are at Otterburn, which is in the beautiful northeast Northumberland countryside, very close to the place where the Vikings invaded England for the first time.
He loves telling a Viking story. Two fantastic ranges run by two fantastic people with lots of experience themselves. So as training environments go, that's about as good as it's going to get. So we're really excited that we can build a place that people can learn some lifelong skills in a happy environment. So we're excited.
That's exciting. That's one thing that I can't stress enough. You know, I've trained at a lot of places in the world, and one of the things that I think really makes a course is the training grounds, right? And especially the creativity of the instructor to be able to put shooters in scenarios that they would probably never experience anywhere else, right? Especially at their home range, that it's maybe static and flat, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing those ranges and being able to figure it out, because one of the things I tell my students all the time is I'm trying to figure the range out just as much as you are when we start talking about wind, and trying to reverse engineer exactly what the wind is doing and how to apply those same concepts to maybe a different range that you might find yourself, or especially for, let's say, Simon, you did talk about a lot of interest for some of the military law enforcement gentlemen that want to be taking this style of course, right? Like, again, I don't know how it is to train in the military, the British military, but I know how it is in the American military, and the training that I used to put together as a senior sniper is nowhere near the style of training that I do now, right, with civilian shooters. So I can only imagine the restraints are very similar in the UK military.
Yeah, it's and also let's not forget, when you're told to go on a course, you take whatever course you get. If that's what you're paid to be doing. If you're paying a lot of money to come on it, there's a different level of expectation altogether. But I'm a firm one in saying, paying customers still get wet. They still get uncomfortable. If you can't shoot well uncomfortable, then you'll never shoot well. So don't expect to come and get golf carted about. This isn't the Highlands. You're not knocking red stags down in golf carts. We're going to be putting people in real scenarios, giving them real training, and hopefully making them much better, safer, ethical shooters off the back of it.
How can the guys sign up? Because we talked, a lot of guys have reached out in terms of getting information. I'm going to pass them to you because you're taking registration. So
so it'll all be on the NRL Hunter UK website, which will take you to our booking platform, which is RangeMate. It is a membership package that's exclusive to our members. We have a membership in the UK, but everyone that's a member knows it's not an expensive exercise. It's more building a community and making sure that we can coordinate discounts and benefits to our members, as opposed to opening it up to everyone. And your community's got to be defined. That's the reality of it. So it'll be on the website. We should have it on the website live for booking in the next few days. And as always, any questions, Philip's always at the end of an email, as are we. And I'm sure we'll do another podcast about it next year on the run up to it and give people more information. But from what we've had already, we've got lots of excited people just chomping at the bit to get booked on.
Yeah, the one thing that I'll say is get signed up as early as you can, just because one of the things that we did talk about, and I've already been doing this for a year with the cadre, is pre-course training materials, right? As soon as you get signed up, you'll start getting a wave of pre-course materials, which I owe you guys. You'll get from either myself or these guys in terms of how to best prepare yourself, because obviously, as a recording of this podcast, it's December 14th, so we have about 9-10 months, right? And I know when people sign up for a class, they get itchy to want to, they're also, they don't know what to expect, right? And hopefully these training materials that we send to you give you expectation. Okay, hey, this is what you can expect, so that we can truly maximize our range time together when we actually go, versus me killing you for 2 days, which I'm not going to do, right? But me killing you with PowerPoints for 2 days, which is not my style, right? We get that out of the way with all this pre-course work. So the earlier sign up, the more videos you're able to see and get and consume at a very manageable time, versus signing up 30 days prior and now getting, let's say, 15 videos to try to watch in 30 days. So.
And between now and then, we've got matches running, we've got training running, we've got events we'll be at, like the Northern Country Sports Show in Harrogate, where we'll have a stand. You will make friends for life on courses like this. That's what I've learned from going on training, that I've bonded with people for life, and that's one of the things you don't expect. So be part of the community now, meet the people in advance. We can get all the questions out of the way, so you can roll into training knowing what you're going to get and maximising your potential.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. And for my non-UK or just my European audience, guys, guys that are maybe wanted to cross, jump in a plane and hit up some of your matches, how can they best sign up and get a hold of you guys for, maybe information on?
Well, we've already had a few sign up from France, and we've got a good dialogue with our counterparts in France and Italy and other countries that haven't got NRL Hunter yet, but hopefully one day will. We will make it possible for everyone that wants to come on this training. We're used to flying people in and doing visits permits for firearms. We're used to sourcing firearms for people. Any consideration that's needed to get people on this course will be made. So just reach out to us and we'll make it work.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for taking your time. I know it's late there. I'm excited. Yeah, like I said, this is probably not going to be the only podcast that we do to talk about. I'm eager to hear about how the season starts. I really want to dive the next time into the 22 aspect of NRL Hunter, you guys' series out there. I think that's, at the 22 stuff, it blows up out here, and I think that's the best, lowest barrier to entry to get into any type of precision sport, right? And to build those reps in at such a more affordable cost. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for what you guys do for your shooting community out there, or just the shooting community as a whole, right? Worldwide. Again, I think it's kind of a thankless job, but you guys are killing it. So, congratulations on 1 year as well, guys. I know that's a big Thanks, thing.
Buddy.
So thank you very much.
But yeah, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And until then, you guys know the drill. Keep your face on the gun.